Hey, y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders, and it is time for our Thanksgiving extravaganza.
Yes. Thanksgiving. What a good movie.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, so how are you doing, Heather?
I have made a pilgrimage to the dining room table
Yes.
where I stuffed my face with turkey and pumpkin pie.
Yes, we're pre-gaming for when we actually cook the big meal.
It's true. And my son calls it the feast.
That's aptly.
We will be feasting on Saturday, but today we had a mini Thanksgiving meal because I felt bad not preparing anything. You know, I just couldn't let it go.
Yeah, so you had to do something.
Yeah, so I made a really small Thanksgiving dinner.
It was like a Thanksgiving lunch.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but it had dessert. So I mean, how could you go wrong?
We have dessert all the time. I don't know why this surprises you.
It's because I'm so sweet.
I love baking. What can I say?
You just suck on my finger sometimes as a treat.
I think you have me confused with someone else.
No, you do it all the time. Don't be embarrassed now.
You have me confused with one of your other wives
No.
or husbands.
No, I only have room in my life for one wife.
Is that true?
Yeah.
You only need one telling you what to do?
Yeah, I mean,
I need help. We need, your wife needs a wife.
You know,
I'm telling you, we need a wife, okay? It would make my life so much easier.
in theory, well, then why can't I get another husband to do the things around the house I don't want to do?
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, maybe he'll be handy.
Is there a couple out there who wants to become our husband and wife?
Yes.
Who wants to join our husband and wife team?
It's going to be platonic. We're
Yeah.
just going to split bills and house chores.
Chores. Yes. Yes.
So we need someone who's enjoys cleaning, cooking, and fixing odd jobs around the house. And I'm not assigning that.
Someone that doesn't take 6 months to hang a picture when I ask.
I'm not assigning
nice.
gender to any of those tasks because I'm totally fine with the man or the woman or whoever doing those tasks. So we're not going to assign gender to the jobs. You know, if she can, is good, handy with a spackler and can drywall and shit, that's fine. If he is I'm a domestic goddess, so it's going to be hard for any other man to keep up with me in that realm. No, would you agree?
Yeah, you're fairly domestic.
When I get crunk up and going, son, I'm unstoppable
You are.
force.
And I'll let you because, I don't like being domestic.
I have not noticed. I have not noticed that at all.
What are you saying?
No.
That I don't do a good job?
You smile and hum when you do dishes. It's weird. You should enjoy it so much.
I begrudgingly do it, but you know what? The house is fucking clean, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm not saying it's not. I think we should change the subject.
What? When you think of the holiday Thanksgiving, what comes to your mind, Dylan? What images do you think? Turkeys, pilgrims,
Well, I'm not as much a traditionalist, but
a cornucopia of fruit,
yes.
a bountiful harvest?
Wow, you're nailing all the things I don't think of. I think of, I guess, large groups, gathering, family, eating good, the cliche.
Eating good in the neighborhood?
Some people like to watch football on Thanksgiving.
Do they?
You don't know that?
Oh, okay.
Well, there's two sets of teams. Well, let's see, what is it? Detroit Lions and the Cowboys always play each other on Thanksgiving. That's one of the sets. I think there's two, but I know they do.
Oh, Detroit has a football team?
The Detroit Lions.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And, and then a lot of people making plans for Black Friday. I think we need to bring the stampeding Black Friday back.
I miss the Stampedes.
This month-long Black Friday sales bullshit is not working for me because I always like to watch, and I'll never go out in it, even though they have the great deals or
I
whatever.
only did it one time, and it was a spectacle.
But I like to watch the aftermath. Of course, people truly do get hurt, and that's not cool. And I understand. But when you see the people that's been outside for hours, at the doors,
Best Buy,
and it looks like a damn zombie movie
so
or
you
something.
get a $10 tablet.
Yeah, and the poor workers, associates that have to open those gates, and the people are literally running in, knocking each other down. That is, that's gross. That's very gross to me, and I think it kind of shines a spotlight on some of the bad things and ideals we have here in America in consumerism.
Yes.
So obviously, I'm kidding, and I'm glad that they have had to stop doing that because people were getting killed, trampled to death. Now, I can imagine dying would suck anyway, right? I don't think there's any good way to die. But being trampled in some kind of a crowd event or something like that seems like a very terrible way to go. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
So would choking on a turkey leg,
Well, yeah.
right?
Yeah. But I think that would has a little more dignity to it.
Well, Dylan, we are here today not to talk about feasting and celebration on Thanksgiving Day, but we're here to talk about people killing, dying, or vanishing. This episode is dedicated to creepy Thanksgiving crimes.
And I bet there's some doozies in there.
Oh, there are some good ones. Let's kick it off with one of the most famous stories that has actually sort of become like an American folktale.
Okay.
Okay? And I'm talking about hijacker D.B. Cooper disappeared in the sky on Thanksgiving Eve.
I did not realize that was on Thanksgiving Day.
It is the only unsolved case of hijacking and air piracy in the United States' history, and it happened the night before Thanksgiving back in 1971. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this crime, and unless you live under a rock, I don't know how you could not know about D.B. Cooper. This guy calling himself Dan Cooper, later DB by the media for unknown reasons, but that name stuck, boarded a Northwest Airlines flight number 305 out in Portland, bound for Seattle. Mid-flight, he revealed to the flight attendant that he had a bomb in his carry-on bag, actually showed it to the flight attendant, and then promptly conducted the politest hijacking ever.
It's always been such a mystery surrounding D.B. Cooper. And I mean, honestly, they've beat that story to death. I think if you are any type of a fan of true crime, you've heard D.B. Cooper.
Because it's just so fucking fascinating, Dylan.
But it is very strange. And there's so many theories as to what actually happened to him.
Well, he got the plane to land in Seattle, demanded $200,000 in cash and 2 sets of parachutes. After these items and demands were met by the airline, and the FBI was involved at this point, Cooper released the passengers and instructed the flight crew to take off for Mexico City. Now, shortly after the flight began, Cooper sent the flight attendant to the cockpit for safety. He strapped on one of the parachutes, opened the plane's rear stairs, and jumped out, only to become a fucking legend.
So he straps on a parachute, he's got his satchel with $200,000 in it, and he just jumps.
Well, no trace of Cooper was ever found, Dylan, but some of the money he stole was recovered from a forest outside of Portland many years later. But the man himself and his true identity remains a mystery to this day. Cooper became a legend and, as I mentioned, like a bit of a folk hero because of his boldness, and they also noted his incredibly polite demeanor.
So he wasn't maniacally screaming or threatening everyone. He just politely showed them the bomb, told them what he wanted them to do, or else, I'm sure.
Please, sir, may I have some more money?
Don't make me detonate this bomb.
Yes,
And what do you think really happened to DB? Do you think he got away?
I do.
So I'm not sure about what type of airliner this was, how big it was. But it would be...
Was a big old jet airliner. It's going to carry him and his money far away.
See, here's the thing. That's not made for jumping out of at altitude, in altitude. You see what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, but I feel like this was a guy who had training.
Okay. Yeah, because that is a...
They've never found a body.
And I'm sure they scoured
You know they did.
a 50-mile radius around where he jumped.
They've never ever recovered a body. Never recovered like the full amount of money. I think this was a person who had some training, whether it was military, like a paratrooper or a pilot. I feel like this is a person who had some experience and training, and I think he got away.
So, do you think that the partial amount of money they found was
Plus,
maybe?
still, we don't know exactly like what the altitude was when he jumped. We don't know how high maybe he had them kind of drop down when he jumped out.
Oh yeah, well,
I'm not sure. I don't have the
the
details in front of me.
I'd be concerned about jet exhaust, things like that, striking you as you leave the plane. But I mean, it had a set of rear stairs, so I mean that's going to be a good thing. But do you think the small amount of money they found is maybe from the bag striking the ground, him spilling some, and hastily, clearing out of the area? Now, if he's planned this out this well, and I'm honestly surprised that they cooperated with him, met his demands. And this may be one of the reasons, later down the line, they decided not to do that with hijackers. But he may have had an accomplice, someone on the ground, someone with a vehicle.
Right, exactly. So the FBI, Dylan, did finally give up on looking for him altogether and actually closed its case on Cooper in 2009 without ever solving it.
Wow. So he got away, basically.
He did.
One way or the other.
Yeah, in life or death.
He was never held accountable for his actions.
Right. So we can bring another Steve Miller Band song into this.
And the flight crew.
Go on, take the money and run. Woo-hoo-hoo.
The flight crew was like, "Thank you, Mr. Cooper. It's been nice having you."
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for flying the friendly skies.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he would never make it nowadays. He would be asked to leave the plane if he's not wearing his mask and things like that. Maybe he's not cooperating. Politeness might not get him through today.
Could be an air marshal. They'd be able to trace him with like facial recognition software, DNA.
Oh yeah, well they would be tracking the plane with a live satellite, and they would know everything that happened.
They've just made it like really hard for people to commit cool crimes.
Well, people still attempt it.
Because I'm sorry, but that's a cool crime.
Well, I mean, that's
just like an Ocean's 11 kind of crime, right? Like there's some things like a group of people knocking over a casino and getting away with the money. I mean, you're like, yeah, cool. Stick it to the man.
I don't know why, but I love caper movies.
I love a good caper too.
Or a good con. And I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Dirty Rotten Scoundrels?
Yeah. The Sting?
Yes.
Which has been emulated in, many, many times, even if they don't admit it.
I do love me some
I mean, Ocean's 11 was definitely, of course, that was a remake as well, but...
The Italian Job?
The Italian Job?
Of course, all remakes.
Yes.
Okay, moving along, Dylan. We're going to talk about the popular smiley face killer.
This is a case that just baffles me, and I don't know, it's scary because it is tied to a lot of murders and deaths around the country, all over the country, but I almost want it to be true for some weird reason because I don't know. What do you think?
Well, the smiley face killer is more of a theory, but there is a lot of, circumstances that kind of tie it together where it's a pretty good theory, really.
Yeah, it's a decent theory.
So this theory claims that there's a cabal of serial killers operating across the United States, and they target young white male college students. They dump their bodies in rivers, sometimes lakes or ponds, bodies of water. They erase the physical evidence, and then they draw a smiley face at the dump site in order to taunt police.
Yeah, like graffiti, typically.
Exactly. The deaths are normally written off by law enforcement as like an accident or a drunken accident. This is a person who was drunk and fell in the river and drowned.
So that leads me to believe there's no obvious signs of trauma to the body. I mean, short of what might happen if you're in water or
Yes.
if you were to fall and strike your head, maybe. But there's no stabs, there's no gunshots. They're just because a lot of them are written off as, just like you said,
Drownings.
drunken shenanigans and drownings.
But people who really believe in this theory maintain that there is a lot of similarity among the victims that cannot be just mere coincidence.
So, to the basically saying the serial killer has a type, no different than Ted Bundy with the brunettes, slot
Yes.
builds, or which is typically the case with serial killers. They have a type of victim that they like to hunt and kill.
One of the Smiley Face's possible victims was a Westchester University student who disappeared on the streets of Philadelphia during the Thanksgiving holiday in 2014. His name is Shane Montgomery. Shane's body was discovered several days later in the
I bet you're going to say this perfect. The charcuterie board?
The charcuterie board. No, the River.
Okay. The Schuylkill River.
The Schuylkill River. And his death was ruled an accidental drowning by the medical examiner. But, Dylan, the circumstances surrounding his death, who, if he met anyone after leaving a bar at 2 a.m., there's a lot of questions. Like, how did he wind up in the river to begin with? It all remains shrouded in mystery. So he left this bar, ends up dead in the river. Did he encounter someone? I mean, it just doesn't really make sense.
Well, I mean, of course, people, get drunk and screw around a river, pond, bodies of water, lakes, and die accidentally. That's rather common, I would think. But I mean, it seems to me a bit odd to leave a bar and then go to a river, late at night. I mean, that's just weird to me.
It's very weird. I mean, well, it's weird with all of these young men because I've been drunk as hell, but I've never been compelled to go down to the river when I'm drunk.
No.
In Philadelphia around Thanksgiving when you know it's cold as hell.
Yeah, I mean, it's even more so. There, you typically wouldn't be anywhere near the river. That's just weird.
Yeah, it's very strange. So this happened on Thanksgiving, and that is one of our interesting crimes. Do you think the Smiley... do you believe that theory? Like, do you think that it's true, or is it just one of those things where it's so coincidental? Because when you think about, like, a smiley face graffiti, that's very common.
Well, and that's one of what opponents of this theory point out. That's probably one of the most common items of graffiti, I would think. But I mean, still, I mean, they've linked many cases all over the country in the theory, and it's kind of odd. With I mean, how many young white college students are going to drown in a body of water where there just happens to be some smiley face graffiti?
Quite a few, I guess.
I mean, I guess it could happen, but oh my God, I think the turkey's got us lethargic.
You think so?
Yeah, what is that stuff in it?
Here is a more recent Thanksgiving crime, and it is absolutely haunting. I want to cover this case at length sometime soon, Dylan, but it happened in 2016 in Knoxville, Tennessee, and it started out amicably, like any regular old Thanksgiving day, right? You had a 28-year-old Baton Rouge resident named Joel Michael Guy Jr., who traveled from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, back home to Knoxville, where he had dinner with his 3 sisters and his parents. They had the typical Thanksgiving, turkey, stuffing. But at the end of the night, the 3 daughters, who did all live in Tennessee, by the way, went back to their homes. Guy Jr. was left alone with his parents, Joel Guy Sr., age 61, and Lisa Guy, aged 55. And this is when shit hit the fan, Dylan. At some point between Thursday night and Monday afternoon, the Knox County Sheriff's Department claims that Guy Jr. stabbed and dismembered his parents, then attempted to dissolve their bodies in a mix of drain cleaner, sewer cleaner, peroxide, and bleach.
My God.
He was an undergraduate, I believe at LSU, and was still very financially dependent on his parents. Family members told authorities that his parents had given him the rundown, like over this holiday, that basically we are going to scale back our support. We're going to cut you off financially. You're 28 years old. It's time to get your shit together. We eventually want to retire, and we don't want to be supporting your ass forever.
Quit with the education for education's sake.
Pretty much.
Finish it up. Get a job.
Right.
Get some direction in your life.
So it seems this guy like lost his shit when his parents told him we're going to cut you off.
You know, I wasn't dependent on my parents financially or anything like that, especially at 28. But these people some people, I should say, lose their shit when their parents threaten to cut them off or write them out of the will or something like that. And I just don't think you should be that dependent, even though it's your parents, on someone else's stuff. You know what I mean? It's like the people who just never leave home and just live in the room where they grew up and wait for their parents to die so they can get the house.
Well, he was charged with first-degree murder, 2 counts of abusing a corpse, and 2 counts of felony murder. He had no history of mental illness and no prior criminal record. But his attorney did say that he suspected there was like some shame around the money that played a larger role in the killing itself. Like the fact that it wasn't just like, we're going to stop paying your bills, but that they were kind of like, you know, making him feel bad about,
I mean, that's
like,
still...
hey, you're a loser, I guess. I don't know. It's a really fucking weird case. The whole thing is just mind-blowing. And like I said, one day I would like to cover that extensively on a Mountain Murders episode.
Now, would you consider this a situation where someone just had a strong emotional reaction to something and kind of just snapped and lost their shit?
Possibly.
Because, I mean, I guess if it wasn't just about finances and they were some kind of a tension, I'm sure it was building long before this, over months, maybe years. 28, still at home. And, yeah, but still, I mean, you can't... I just couldn't imagine being that emotionally fragile, but, you know, everyone has their own cross to bear, I guess.
He was, like, kind of described by people as being distant and a bit of an outsider. He never really established any relationships with anybody outside of his family. And his mother, Lisa, was said to have, like, doted on him. But he was a pretty smart guy. He went to Louisiana School for Math, Science, and the Arts, which is, you know, a pretty awesome school to get into. And then he went on to George Washington University, but he only spent about a semester there. Then he went to LSU and lived in Baton Rouge. He was training to become a plastic surgeon.
Oh, wow.
So the guy is smart. Like, he's a very intelligent fellow.
Ah, so he was familiar with anatomy.
Yeah.
And, yeah, he knew how to attack those joints and dismember his parents. I've got to say, I think there was some significant, even if people haven't seen it or noticed it, I think it was significant mental issues going on there.
Well, the guys had recently sold their home in Knoxville, and they planned to retire to Seguinsville.
Seguinsville?
Seguinsville?
Okay.
Or Shergoinsville. See, again, I'm totally butchering that. Have no fucking idea how to say that or where that is.
Is that by the Charcuterie River?
It probably is.
Okay.
But the prosecution did have a handwritten journal that they found in his backpack during the investigation that they brought to trial. That was considered a book of premeditation because it contained very detailed notes outlining his intent to murder his parents and destroy their remains. And one of the pages included the following. It had a note to get carving knives to make small pieces, get sledgehammer, crush bones, bring blender and food grinder, grind meat,
Ugh.
get plastic bin for denaturization process. Does not matter where they're killed, just get rid of bloody spots to prevent evidence of time and death. So not on the mattresses or couches. Get rid of bodies inside house and their DNA, my DNA already there. Let's see. Flush chunks down toilet, not garbage disposal.
Not a good idea.
Get plastic sheeting for disposal processes. Let's see. He's not alive to claim her half of the insurance money, so it's all mine. He has $500,000 written in a note, like a little note to himself. Flood the house, cover up forensic evidence, turn heater up as high as it goes, which speeds up decomposition. Bleach reacts with luminol just like blood. Douse area with bleach, which is still stupid because
they're going to know that
you bleached it, which means you were getting rid of blood. I mean, come on, dude.
So, well, this kind of knocks out the theory I was saying a minute ago. Just snapping mental break. And
I mean, but
this is
kind of, but it almost sounds like he did sort of have a. I mean, even though he's like making these notes, he never had issues. It wasn't like he was violent with his parents in the past or anything.
Well, I'm saying that leads me leaning more towards calculating and just a monster who is sick of his parents' shit, and before they can kind of push him out of the nest and you know go do finally live their own life and retire, he was going to kill him and keep everything. So I think it casts it in a different light. I mean, granted, that's not something a mentally stable person would do, right?
When they apprehended him as a suspect, they found a meat grinder in the trunk of his car.
See, the fact that that's depravity. The fact that you can cut your own parents up, smash their bones, grind the meat. Flushing it down the toilet is a really bad idea. It's a really bad idea. Not long ago, some plumbers called 911.
Yes.
Saying that they found a bunch of fleshy, meaty-looking stuff in the sewer pipes. And sure enough, there was someone trying to dispose of a body in, I think it was an apartment complex.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was very recent. Well, it only took it took 4 days to try him. He was found guilty, sentenced to life in prison. He was also convicted of abuse of a corpse, and he's currently incarcerated at the Northwest Correctional Complex in Tiptonville, Tennessee. And the thing is, Dylan, his sister said he was totally fine at Thanksgiving dinner.
See, even more so, even scarier, that he has planned this out.
Psychopath.
He's planned this out. He's waiting for his opportunity. And obviously his parents were the target of his aggression, and his sisters were not. So he let them go. Yeah, I think this guy's a monster.
Yeah, well, he's just a freak. You should look at his picture. I'm just going to say that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's got crazy eyes.
What's his name?
Joel Guy Jr.
Joel Guy Jr.
Yeah.
That sounds like a serial killer's name.
You think so?
Don't you think?
Yes. Okay, so I have another one for us, Dylan, that is so very bizarre. This takes place in Lake Worth, Texas. The Blunt family were returning from a Thanksgiving outing in 1985 when 15-year-old daughter Angela found a briefcase on the porch of their mobile home. When she opened it, the briefcase exploded, killing Angela, her dad, Joe, her cousin, whose name was Michael Columbus. 10 years later, a man named Michael Toney was convicted of the crime, but his conviction was overturned because the prosecution withheld evidence that contradicted witness testimony that actually exonerated Toney. Now, some have speculated that the Blunts weren't the intended targets. I will be able to speak at some point today. The intended targets of this bombing, but that the device was probably left for someone else, maybe like a neighbor. But there's never been evidence produced in this case that really gives them any answers. So it just remains a total mystery what happened.
Oh, my God.
Now, is that not fucking scary?
Well,
to come home and you find a suitcase bomb?
Bombs are scary.
Yeah, that's pretty
An
frightening.
explosive device capable of maiming or especially killing is a very scary thing. And that's why I think, mail bombs and things like that and the Unabomber, while that really catches people's kind of attention, the nation's attention. Look, my computer's slow as Christmas. Joel God Jr. looks like a wackadoodle. Okay?
Yeah, I know. He's got crazy eyes.
He has his mug shot.
He's got like Katy Perry crazy eyes.
He looks crazy. They got a spit shield on him in court, unless that was during COVID, which I don't think it was. And he looks like he did not have luck with the ladies. I'm going to say it. And yeah, I think Joel was a monster.
Yeah, his eyes just really freak me out.
Now, if you found, well, in this day and age, it would be even easier to sneak a package bomb in on somebody. How many of us are used to coming home and there's a surprise package there from Amazon or something? Think about it. All you got to do is wrap it up in Amazon, get some Amazon tape, put it in a cardboard box.
Don't give people ideas. They don't need ideas.
That was like that guy, what is Bjork? Was that the singer?
Bjork?
Bjork.
Yeah.
You ever heard, you remember that guy who was obsessed with her?
I do remember she had a stalker.
He created a device that would, when she opened it, would, if I'm not mistaken, stick her and inject her with like AIDS blood or something to that effect. Yeah. I mean, how scary is that? That's insane.
We need to double check and make sure that's fact.
Okay. Well, I see where this is going.
Well, I'm just saying.
You think I'm lying?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's true. You want to bet money on it? $50 right now.
You don't even have $50 right
I
now.
do have $50. I can go get $50.
I bet you can.
Oh, as long as I owe you, you'll never be broke.
That is such a Dylan thing to
I can
say.
owe people
it's
for
such
years.
a Dylanism. Okay, you little broke ass bitch. Actually, you're not broke because if you remember, one of our listeners sent you $1 through PayPal.
Yeah, for Jolly Ranchers and beans.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan.
Thank you, Nathan.
New Orleans-based rapper Soulja Slim. Have you heard of this person?
I've heard the name.
Soulja Slim. I don't even know who that is.
I'm not familiar with his
real
work.
name was James Tapp, and he was allegedly on the verge of superstardom when his life was cut short by a gunman on Thanksgiving evening back in 2003. They did have a suspect who claimed he'd been hired to kill Tapp for $10,000, but the case was dropped due to a lack of witnesses. So Tapp's murder remains officially unsolved, including the identity of the person who hired the alleged hitman. So he did have a song. Okay, he had the song Slow Motion, which was a collaboration with Juvenile. So, okay, I know who this guy is.
Is that Slow Work It For Me?
Yeah.
Slow Work It For Me.
It's like slow motion for me. Yeah.
Is it Slow Motion For Me?
Baby, the song is called Slow Motion. It's not called Slow Work It. Why do you make a... He has this horrible habit of like making up song lyrics that are absolutely not the lyrics. And I'm like, where do you even come up with this shit? And you're like, oh no, it's just how it plays out in my brain.
Well, that's what I heard. That's what I heard.
Well, it became a Billboard #1 hit 6 months after he was killed.
Oh, so he was killed back then.
2003, babe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he didn't make it. There's a lot of rappers getting killed now. And some people believe they're being sacrificed. Or some people believe they're manifesting their death by rapping about shooting and killing and such.
Yeah, there are some conspiracy theories floating around out there. The recent death of Takeoff, part of the Migos.
Ah, yes.
There's some conspiracy theories about that.
Yeah, and there was that dude who had like $2 million or $1 million worth of jewelry on, and he was at like the chicken shack in the hood with his wife. I mean, I appreciate him trying to keep it real, but maybe you shouldn't have $1 million in jewelry on out in public. Just saying.
Right?
Okay, I followed up. Bjork's stalker tried to kill her with an acid letter bomb.
Okay.
And he looks like a maniac.
So not AIDS. See, I knew that didn't sound right to me, Dylan.
Well, you know what? That would be like even...
That's why we needed a fact check, because I was like, that is not true.
Well...
And I remember she had a stalker, but I don't think that's the way it went down.
Okay, he looks super crazy for one. And for two, an acid letter bomb's scary too.
It's pretty scary.
Did you just open it and sprays acid in your face?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
but
not okay.
what if like a little arm come out, like a little mechanical arm is like, beep,
What
with
is
a
this, like the
AIDS needle.
The Joker?
Yeah.
Like the Joker sending this?
Yeah, he's like, let me, you know how I got these scars? It's from a letter bomb. Is that as a decent Heath Ledger Joker?
You are no Heath Ledger, sir.
Man, it's a shame that he died.
He was one beautiful man.
And I was really looking forward to the Joker solo. Like, it would have been more than just a movie.
I would volunteer to lick cake frosting off his body.
It was The Dark Knight may be the best comic book movie ever.
He had a great ass.
And it was because of him.
Those brown eyes.
It was because of the Joker.
God, he was hot.
Damn it, Heath. Why did you accidentally overdose?
I really just love to fuck with you.
Quit taking the pills, bro.
He was pretty.
Well, you know what?
We have a missing person who disappeared on Thanksgiving, Dylan. So let's talk about this. It was Thanksgiving Day, 1997, when Karen Marie Mitchell disappeared from Eureka, California. She was off from school for the day because, of course, it was a holiday, and she left her job and stopped by a shoe store owned by her aunt, who was also her legal guardian, Annie Casper. Karen visited with her aunt, and then she headed home because she was getting ready for the holiday, but she never made it there. A witness claims that he saw Karen get into a blue car driven by an older man shortly after leaving the mall where her aunt worked. This man has never been identified. They did have two high-profile suspects that they were sort of looking into as far as this case goes. The first was a convicted murderer named Wayne Adam Ford, who fit the witness's description of Karen's kidnapper. And though he did confess to several murders, he denied any involvement in Karen's case. And so police were never able to tie him to the crime. And the second suspect, Dylan, was Robert Durst.
Wow.
The subject of the HBO documentary The Jinx. Durst appears to have visited Casper's store several times and was in Eureka the day Karen disappeared. But, like the first suspect, police have been unable to link Durst to the crime. So, we still don't know what happened to Karen. Really sad.
Yeah, that is real sad to happen, especially on a holiday, you know, because everyone's going to always connect that tragedy to the holidays. And it would just be terrible. I guess we've said this before. For someone to just disappear.
Yes.
You never know what happened. You never have any closure.
Well, my cousin's been missing for a year now.
You'll always wonder what happened, you know, if they were, you know, kept captive or tortured or any number of horrible things.
These are the things that run through my mind every day. You know, it has officially been a year since my cousin disappeared.
And I must say there were some fairly disturbing rumors. Now, they could have, in a small town like this especially, just been rumors. But, you know, sometimes there's grains of truth in these rumors. And there were some disturbing things being said about her and what happened to her.
Exactly. But, you know, there's not a day goes by that I don't think about her. And then I don't open my phone to check news stories and they found a body, and then I'm immediately like, oh my gosh, is it her? And go read the article. And, you know, I'm constantly checking to see if there's been any update in her case. But nothing. And, you know, it's hard to live with that. And I mean, I can't imagine what these other families go through because, you know, this is their daughter, their child, their sister. But it's like something that, you know, I think about it every day. Like, what happened to her? Because how do people just vanish?
It happens.
No trace.
It happens. And obviously when
it's infuriating to think people might know something and don't come forward with that information.
Yeah, because someone out there knows something. I mean, typically there has to be someone who knows something. Unless someone disappeared themselves, which people do it, but that's got to be very rare for someone to walk away from their life and never speak to friends or family or anyone ever again. And then, of course, you get into the fact that their social security numbers never accessed again or used anywhere, or their money or, you know, if credit cards and such are never used again. I mean, that's just obvious sign of foul play.
Well, that's the line the law enforcement locally has been trying to feed us, this narrative. And they fed that narrative to the media that my cousin just walked away from her life.
Yeah, but yeah,
because she, she did have some
pending
pending
trouble with the law.
She was in trouble with the law and had some pending charges, and they act like she just fled. But the thing is, she doesn't really have any. We're a very small family. Both of my aunt was married to her father. My aunt is dead. Her dad is dead. So like the two people who were her parents essentially are gone. She has one sister. They're estranged. She doesn't have people to like house her, send her money,
Or the means
be
to just
protecting
disappear.
her for a year. It's not like she has friends all over the world that could be hiding her,
Right.
And the fact that there has been no activity, it just makes you think the worst. So when cops are like, "Oh, well, I think she just picked up and left," it's like,
Well,
no, she didn't. Come on.
Look,
No, most people don't fucking just pick up and leave. It's
I've got-
ridiculous.
through your research and Mount Murders over the years about local stories, and from what we've heard and seen, this is a good place to make someone disappear, because I've got to say, typically the cops are pretty lazy around here when it comes to some kind of tough investigation. And God forbid, if you've ever used drugs or had any run-ins with the law, they will write you off in a heartbeat, because there has been more than one person found here dead in very suspicious circumstances.
There was a fella who was found dead maybe a year or two ago.
Multiple people's been found dead in creeks.
In creeks. Yes.
And the one, I'm not going to say his name out of respect to friends and family that may have known him. But the one gentleman was found as much when you were actually, it crossed my mind when you were describing the smiley face death right there. Cold weather. And here, like the water and stuff, you're not going to get anywhere. Unless it's the middle of July, you're not getting in this water. Because here, we're Headwaters County, it's literally coming in, down and out of mountains, ice cold. It'll take your breath in July. So you're definitely not going to be messing around the water in fall, winter, early spring. He was found in a creek and cut off shorts, and that's it, from what I'm to understand. And of course, he'd had lots of trouble with the law, bit of a hellraiser, known to use drugs, and they just write it off. They just write you off. And I don't agree with that. I don't care if someone's even an asshole or, has caused problems. They still deserve for their death to be properly investigated.
Everybody deserves
Unless
that.
they're a child molester, a rapist, or a cold-blooded murderer, then they're pieces of shit. But
even we all need to. We all still need to know how they died.
Oh, well, I'm saying I would be glad those people are dead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But just because someone is a hellraiser, trouble with the law, use drugs, I hate that. They do it all the time in testimony. All they got to do is say you smoke pot, and just all of a sudden the jury, you could have the most credible, detailed story that you've never changed for, many, many interviews. And as soon as they point out that you've been arrested for drugs or something, they're like, oh, well, you know what? I've done drugs in the past. And I remembered shit, you know what I mean? If you're blackout drunk or something, maybe not. But just because you're doing drugs doesn't mean you're lying. It doesn't automatically make you a liar.
Just because you did drugs 20 years ago doesn't mean that you're a piece of shit today and you're not worthy of consideration or justice. It's ridiculous.
I agree. And it happens a lot here. It's happened in
it happens all the time.
More than one of the local cases we've covered. The man there in the motel room in Maggie Valley. Very suspicious circumstances. Very suspicious circumstances. How his
Thomas Wesley Harden.
How he was found. The mattress pulled over him. Witnesses saying that they saw other men there and stuff, and they just swept it under the rug and ignored it. And it pisses me off because there's never any accountability. There's never any accountability for authority, prosecutors, investigators who do a bad or do the wrong thing.
So something else that's bothered me, and then we'll get back to our Thanksgiving crimes. This is some fucking bullshit. 3, 4, 5 years ago, I think it might have been just before I met you, they found a body in a drainage pipe area by some restaurants in town. Right in the middle of fucking town.
In the middle of a parking lot.
And they were very, hush hush about the details. But I know people who know some people who know some people that said, like, there was like a decapitation type of thing and like missing stuff, and it had been there for some time. It was like skeletal. Very, very suspicious death. You never heard another fucking word about it.
No follow-up at all.
No follow-up.
Not even to say we tried to find out something, we couldn't find anything out. And this body...
Or like, we think this person died of natural causes.
And animals scattered the remains.
For whatever reason, laid there for some years and nobody ever noticed.
I don't think you can express how public this spot was to people.
It's literally like on a main thoroughfare, what we call Grease Alley, because it's where literally like every fast food restaurant in town is located on this strip.
Yeah, there's basically...
gas station, grocery store, it's super public.
Ditch, kind of a hole in the middle of a parking lot, basically, where everybody, if not daily, weekly, went past. And it blew my mind that no matter how they expired or were killed, that a body was there and just decomposed away without anyone noticing.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think that it was there and decomposed away.
I think like the skeletal remains were placed there after the fact.
That's what I think.
There's no way someone would have investigated.
But it's really interesting to me that like nothing's ever been mentioned again about it.
Now, we have country folk around here. And when they smell something dead, they go look and see what the hell it is. They want to see if it's a deer, a possum, coon, whatever. Someone would have found that body if it was a whole body.
Oh, well, if it had been, there's a fucking giant parking lot right there next to a restaurant where everybody and their mama goes. I don't know why it's a shitty restaurant, but that place is busy as hell. So you tell me that if there was a smell of decomposition, which is a very distinct smell, by the way. I have learned this through my job at the mortuary. There is no denying that is a smell of death, right? I have a hard time believing that any patrons of this restaurant could smell that smell, Leonard Skinner style, that smell, and not try to check it out.
Ooh, that smell.
Yes.
Yeah. So I agree.
I totally think somebody brought these bones and left them.
I think someone disposed of the bones there. Yep.
Agreed.
And it would be very easy as we're off an interstate. And it'd be very easy for someone not from the area to pop off there and notice this kind of a pretty, good sized hole, ditch in the middle of this parking lot. So it'd be very easy to park by that and just toss those remains in there.
Yeah. But again, you never hear a fucking thing about it.
Nope.
No identity, no nothing.
They don't follow up on the cool stuff.
Hell, they barely follow up on anything. There was some chaotic shit happening outside today. I am in the comforts of my home and I hear screaming and hollering and I was like, what is that? And of course my kids are like, what is going on? I go to the window, I look out the dining room, and down in the street below our house is a domestic situation if I've ever seen one. This woman was just beating the shit out of this guy, and he's trying his hardest to get away from her. And he's yelling at her like, leave me alone. You can hit me. I'm not getting in the car with you, while she's screaming, you get your ass back in the car. And then she's like in the car trying to run him over. She's just driving up on the sidewalk. She does like a U-turn in the road, which is, we live off a busy street. Just chaotic, man, pulling in people's driveways, backing out, almost hitting cars, trying to chase this guy down. And he's like trying to get away from her. Like all around this little like area here. Just insane. Cops come. They don't do anything.
They just break them up.
I'm pretty much sure they just send them on their way.
I'm sorry.
I'm like, this woman was causing chaos.
A menace to society.
She absolutely needed to go to jail.
And I'm sorry. This is one of those situations where if that was the man was doing that, his ass would have been took straight to jail. And I never advocate hitting women, but what are your feelings when a woman's actively attacking a man? What are your feelings? If you'd seen that guy, she's on him, trying to beat him up, all this, won't let him go away.
Trying to hit him with her car.
If you seen him haul off and hit her, what would your reaction be?
You better run, because when she gets in that car, you dead.
You said she was much larger than him, right?
He was a very small guy.
All the more reason.
A very small fellow, slight.
Do you think men have the right to defend themselves when they're being attacked by a woman by striking her? This is a pointed question.
I mean, it's a flight or fight instinct, bro. But I almost feel like he could just take off running and get away from her.
Oh.
Because they were outside the vehicle at the time. So he could have taken off. Instead of hitting her, he could have ran.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Well, I think he has the right to defend himself.
But then that bitch get in the car again. I mean, she was trying to run his ass over.
Well, see, that's crazy.
It was crazy.
I think he has the right to defend himself. I'm not saying anyone should beat anyone's ass, male or female. But, I mean, if you got to, like, create a little space so you can get the hell away. That's the worst thing for anyone to do to someone. When you're arguing like that and it's getting really heated and they're just trying to leave, get away, go in another room, and to follow them and just continue it.
I don't do that.
It's the worst.
I can't handle that.
Shit.
That does not work for me.
That does not work for me either.
When I'm mad, I'm like, leave me alone, and I mean it.
Right.
And you're like one of the first people I've ever met who actually does that. So thank you.
Well, no, well, at that point, I know it's for
because at the end
it's in my best interest.
Well, at the end of the day, we don't really like confrontation.
No.
We both don't really care for confrontation, and we grew up in like a lot of chaos.
It's true.
So actually while I was watching this today, I was like, oh, this reminds me of my childhood. It's a holiday. Yay.
We both will walk away from confrontation.
Yeah.
And go in other rooms. And we don't argue and fight, which I like. But we have our spats here and there. It's typically when you're continually telling me how awesome I am, and I just get tired of hearing it sometimes. But we'll just give some space. But
I'm sorry, King.
I had to learn that because I'm a fixer. I want to fix things. I want to make it better. I want to smooth it out. And I had to learn early on with you that when you do need your space, just give her space.
But I've told you that up front. I was like, look, here's how I handle conflict. And I don't want to stand and yell and scream and go back and forth and fight for 6 hours or whatever.
No.
That's not me. So I'm going to walk away, go in a room. I want to be left alone until I can calm down and like get my shit together. And I was pretty upfront about like, this is what needs to happen for me. Please,
and that works good.
Leave me be.
It keeps these small spats from turning into something worse. And I think that's a good habit for anyone to get into.
But like, she was not just letting him be.
Chasing him around.
It was wild. I really thought like, holy shit, I'm going to watch this man get hit by a car. This woman's going to run his ass over right here in the middle of downtown.
Well, see, that's just crazy because there's all kinds of people walk right here, walk their dogs. There's kids in homes around us who play
she was
on
like
the sidewalk.
whipping in people's driveways.
That's not okay.
Trying to block him. Mm-mm. I mean, she could hit a pet, a child. It was very irresponsible. And they just let her go. And I'm like, all you had to do is go get somebody's Ring camera footage and see how wackadoodle she was acting. Anyway. Another missing persons case, Dylan, and then we'll wrap it up for our Thanksgiving crimes today. On Thanksgiving Day in 1977, a 6-year-old named Bethlyn Barr was walking home from school in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania. She was going to spend the holidays with her family, but she never arrived home. Her dad was a cop, so the police immediately, go into action when she didn't come home, but they could never find this child.
Just gone.
Yeah.
That's scary.
A witness later reported seeing the young girl being carried to a blue sedan driven by an older white man, and the car was traced back to a local rental agency. But the agency's record showed the car had not been loaned out that day. So it is possible that the perpetrator had stolen the car for this crime and then returned it back to this rental agency before anybody noticed it was gone.
Oh my God. It sounds like an abduction, a child killer. That's what it sounds like.
Well, they did find her remains about 2 years later in an unmarked shallow grave near Monroeville, Pennsylvania. She had been stabbed several times in the chest, but they've still never solved this crime. The identity of the killer remains unknown.
Oh my God. Those are literal monsters hunting children. And that is so scary.
It is very scary.
So scary. And they say they don't have long when these type of people get the kids because they have no intention of keeping them alive. They just want to do whatever horrid shit they want to do to them and murder them. It's crazy.
It's horrible.
And oftentimes these people will have had a criminal history of molestation, and then they end up in jail because they leave the kid alive. And then they decide, well, next time I won't leave any witnesses.
They keep getting those little slaps on the wrist, not taken seriously.
See, that's what I'm saying.
They give them chance after chance. Yeah.
Molesting a child, and we can put it in age tiers for severity, which I don't think you
minor
should.
attracted persons?
Yeah, whatever. Those people should be smacked right through the face. We're not going to normalize. We're not going to worry about pedophiles' feelings. I don't give a fuck. Okay? Not going to do it. Your first offense should be 20, 30 years in jail. Okay? Hands down. You know, it's funny. They have all this mandatory minimum sentencing tied to drugs, right? But these molesters and rapists and shit like that, they just keep getting brushes with the law and barely getting anything. 10 months, 2 years, or get 12 years and you're out in 2.
It's exactly like the case we've been covering of Jeffrey Dahmer.
It is.
The guy's a sexual predator.
Obviously.
He's been busted multiple times and always manages to get away.
All he had to do was to bring up the gay thing. And the cops literally, oh God, you know. And even if you're uncomfortable around gay people, back then it was, you know, more common to not understand it and be, you're still a cop. You still got to protect people.
Do they, Dylan?
Well, they should.
Well, maybe they need to hear that from you.
Maybe so. Maybe they'll listen to this. And
Like
be
maybe today you should have talked to those cops out there instead of like letting that lady get back in her car and drive away like a maniac. They should have taken her ass to jail.
Maybe they did. You don't think they did?
I don't think they did.
Okay.
Which was very disappointing.
Okay, so that was a little tasty treat here on this Thanksgiving Eve.
Some Thanksgiving crimes for your holiday listening.
Now, I've really tried to line up Heather for us to have the right moment to do a tipsy Thanksgiving. It didn't happen this year, but maybe, just maybe, we can do a sauced Christmas. Right?
A sauced Christmas.
Yeah, we need to do that, man. That'd be like a blast from the past.
Okay.
Don't you think so?
Possibly.
Yes.
I'll think about it.
And if you're new to listening to Mountain Murders, if you dig back through the archives,
I'll marinate in it. And
there is a tipsy Thanksgiving and a drunky Christmas back there in the history. So yeah, go find that. Heather is not very proud of those episodes.
oh my gosh.
But I think I am proud of them because I think it gives you a glimpse of the real us.
They're comedy gold. That's
we
for
were
sure.
Vulnerable.
Is that what we're calling
We were
it?
screaming. We were on like a $30 lavalier or lapel mics and a borrowed laptop. It's great. It's great. We've come a long ways.
We have.
Yeah.
Baby Virginia Slim. I'm going to start calling you that.
All right. So I hope everyone had a great Turkey Day. And we will be back this weekend with a new episode of Mountain Murders.
We will be bringing you part 2 of the Jeffrey Dahmer story.
Damn it, Dahmer.
Damn it, Dahmer.
Man, I feel bad for anyone who has like a Dahmer last name.
Yeah, they probably changed it by now.
You think so?
Yeah.
Infamous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's true for any of them. There's got to be Gacy's and Bundys out there, right?
I would just change my name to Munson. I'd rather be Munsoned.
You'd rather be Munsoned in the middle of nowhere?
Yes.
Kingpin reference, people.
Exactly. Okay.
All righty.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.